Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian Ant and I'm here to talk about Elite Dangerous, specifically ship transfer. Now, ship transfer was a feature for the game announced at Gamescom that would be implemented in patch 2.2. What it would allow us to do was to summon our ship from another location to our current destination. So any of the ships that we've got in a shipyard, no matter where they are, we'd be able to summon to our location. Now, the controversy emerged around this when it was also announced that the ship transfer would be instant. Now, many players felt there would be a massive problem with this and argued for a delay. Since then, there's been a massive forum thread on the subject going on for many dozens and if not hundreds of pages. It's an extensive discussion which a few times Frontier have got involved with themselves. So it seems that ultimately the arguments for a ship delayed transfer are strong enough that they've urged Frontier to reconsider. And so Frontier are now leaning towards implementing delayed ship transfer. And it's extremely likely that is the way they're going to go with the development on this. But with that in mind, they've opened up a poll allowing players to vote. And if the turnout for this vote is large enough, and the vote in favour for instant transfer significant enough, then Frontier might reconsider again and return to their original design. So I want to jump in and take a look at some of the arguments that have been going on this on both sides. I'm then going to talk about how I feel about the subject and also take a look on what it could mean for the future of the game. Now, there's one other thing to keep in mind here, and that is module transfer. This is also going to come along with ship transfer, but it's very likely that module transfer will follow the same method as ship transfer. Before we go any further into this video though, there's one subject I want to get out of the way immediately, and that is the discussion on lore. And that basically translates to the explanation and reasoning behind how ship transfer in either instant or delayed cases would actually work. Keep in mind that this poll is not about lore, it's about gameplay. In fact, Drew Wager, one of the official Elite Dangerous writers for the lore in the game, as well as author of the official Elite Dangerous novels, has said that in his opinion, lore shouldn't factor into this conversation. In short, he's saying that the discussion should focus on how ship transfer affects gameplay, both in terms of intended and unintended consequences. Personally, I completely agree with his assessment on this, and with that in mind, I'll be keeping the subject of lore and immersion as well out of this video. Let's take a look at both instant and delayed ship transfer then, and talk briefly about what players feel about this. I can't go into too much depth on this, after all there are literally thousands of posts on it, and if I go into every opinion, we're going to be here for the next few hours at least. But what I can do is give a brief summary on each side of the discussion. Instant ship transfer then. This is certainly going to be the most convenient out of the two options that are being presented to us. For example, you could be looking at a community goal in your current system, one for transport and one for bounty hunting, and now you can simply request both ships to be there and choose to do these community goals as and when it suits you. Or another case, your friends may want to go and do some PvP, or have got themselves in a bit of trouble with another player group. You can simply summon your PvP ship along and instantly help them out. This is also a great option for time-limited players. Personally, I've lost count of the amount of time I've had to spend simply shuttling from A to B in order to relocate my ships. It's not something I enjoy, and for that, I'm grateful that ship transfer is even being considered. But there is some problems with instant ship transfer. For starters, it will dramatically reduce the perceived size of the galaxy. For example, you can get instantly from one side of the human bubble to the other, and one way or another this does have an effect on our perception of the size of human space. Now, this isn't about immersion, but it is very much about how we decide to go about our gameplay within that space. There's also the argument that instant ship transfer would lessen the need for quality FSDs. And although this same argument can also be applied to delayed ship transfer, the fact remains that with a delay, you can still consider whether or not it would be worth you going and flying the ship manually or not. With instant transfer, that question doesn't even arise. After all, ship balancing is meant to be all about trade-offs. You have one thing in favour of another. Maybe you choose a larger and heavier hull, and then have less room for weapons. If you no longer have to consider your FSD, that really does have an effect on how you may go about balancing your ship, although of course no one really knows by how much this would affect the game until it's actually implemented. And of course, instant ship transfer also limits the scope of future gameplay options. For example, it could have limitation effects on possible ship management. Let's move on to delayed ship transfer. Now this has all the same benefits of instant ship transfer, but it adds in an inconvenience for the delay. All in all, we're talking a relatively short delay, 5 minutes for nearby systems and 100 minutes to cross from one edge of the bubble to the other edge. Now some people are calling for a longer delay than this, whilst other people think the delay is a little bit too long, but I think it strikes a balance just about right. It's more or less what you'd be able to do if you were to fly the ship manually. Although to be perfectly honest, you could probably get most ships right across the bubble in significantly less time than an hour and a half. Now the other benefit many people are calling for delayed ship transfer is that it requires some planning on what you do and how you do it. This can be translated into additional gameplay if Frontier decide to implement ship management in that manner. And of course the delay maintains the illusion of galaxy size. Now the downsides are that of course it does take longer, meaning that you might find yourself waiting around still, or you may be thinking that you may as well just go and get your ship manually. And then of course is the fact that this could all feel like a little bit of an unnecessary time sink, and we all know there are a few too many of them within the game already. So as I said, a very brief summary on instant ship transfer and delayed ship transfer. But what I really want to talk about is the subject beyond ship transfer, and this is something that very few people are actually talking about. After all, what do these decisions mean for the future of the game? It's likely, after all, that future development designs of this game will pivot on this very decision. For example, instant ship transfer could perhaps move the game towards shorter play sessions and instant reward. It could also potentially limit Frontier's future decisions on the matter. After all, once you have instant ship transfer, you can't then balance the time aspect any further. Whereas alternatively, on the ship delay, you can then balance and rebalance the time frames until you get a time frame that pleases most people. Now, when I talk about the future of game development, I'm talking about the future gameplay additions that could be added in to pivot around ship transfer. For example, Sandro Samarco talked about freighters, massive ships that actually contain and transport your ships, and that Frontier could include these, regardless of the decision of instant or delayed. Also, once you open up the doors of interacting with your ship remotely, you can also open up the possibility to hiring crew to remotely outfit and pilot your ships. Now, when it comes to the possibility of such future gameplay such as ship management, if indeed Frontier ever go that way, then it would seem to me that delayed transfer would open up many more options. For example, you'd get to remotely manage your entire fleet of ships, such as sending those ships on to different destinations, which is opposite to what we're talking about at the moment. At the moment we're talking about pulling those ships to your current location, but this would open up the possibility to push the ship to a destination of your choice. And this is something that Sandro Samarco has expressed a lot of interest in and said he would like to talk to Frontier about the possibility of including this after patch 2.2. And when you start adding crews into the mix, then you get all sorts of fun potential gameplay with ship management, crew and outfitting. Now, whilst you could of course do all of this with instant ship transfer and instant ship management, to me it does limit the scope due to the zero-sum time constraints. So ultimately for me, what do I feel about instant ship transfer versus a time-delayed ship transfer? Well, in either case, they're going to have a massive impact upon the game, and quite arguably in both cases, they're going to improve the game. But for me, at the moment, the way I'm looking at this is as to their impact upon the future of the game development. Personally, I feel that instant ship transfer is going to move the game towards a much higher paced gameplay. And of course, it opens up room for instantaneous play sessions of your choice. Whether you want to get involved in combat, exploration or trading will no longer be determined by the location of your current ship. Whereas I feel that delayed ship transfer will move the game a bit more towards a game of management and planning. In either event, we're quite possibly going to be better off than where we are now. Ship transfer, after all, is a massive step up than no ship transfer at all. So, which am I going to vote for? Well, I hope you can understand why I won't mention that in this video, but if you have been paying close enough attention, then you can probably work out which of the two I actually prefer. Now, the vote for this closes on Monday. Frontier are going to be sending out a message apparently to every player, letting them know that a vote is taking place. I think it's great that Frontier have given the player base this opportunity, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. It does certainly show that Frontier care about what the player base thinks. For now then, I think that brings us to the end of this video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.